Hello, my beautiful, gorgeous dance baby, and welcome to another episode of More Than Dance. Today, we are going to discuss interruptions and what to do about it. And this is actually part one of two episodes. So, we're going to be talking about two of the biggest interruptions. One is a transition, and two is a detour. Now, I bet you're already thinking, okay, I've definitely dealt with an interruption before. And I wonder if you've thought of it the way that I like to. So, for example, we couldn't have thought of a more perfect day to shoot this podcast episode because what a big interruption. As you see, we are in another podcast studio, and it's because it is so hot outside that the AC in the other studio is just not enough for us. So here we are at the dance studio with a brand new setup. I hope you like it. And I am just thinking, like, as I was on my way over here, I was making the decision of, okay, like here we are, we're interrupted and we get to do something about it. And sometimes the thing that you do about it definitely, we talked about expectations. We talk about how sometimes you just don't expect the unexpected and how you can maintain your standard within that situation. So my standard for myself when I'm delivering a podcast episode is to deliver. And how can I best deliver? Well, it's not when I'm sweltering hot and feeling like I'm going to pass out. It's when I'm easy breezy and in some AC and I can think clearly. So the easiest solution to this was to interrupt our whole flow and for a short while, make it a little bit harder and maybe a little bit more stressful for us because we have to figure out different camera angles, different lighting. The mic's on this side over here now. And the funny thing about this is it's all relatable. So I want you to think right now to a time where you've been interrupted and think about a time where you've like gotten the flow. So for Josh and I and this podcast, we record on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and we know what time we're going to do. I do my makeup. We get everything set up. And then I know where he sits. He knows where I sit. And we know what the podcast studio looks like. And we just flow from there. And the things that we get to think about and worry about are enhancing the experience. So we've already spent time getting out all like the speed bumps and our attention gets to be more focused. So when we get interrupted, we get to change. Things are different. Things aren't as they are expected. And it's what we do with that makes an impact. So today, let's first begin by talking about transitions. Now, I want you to think about a transition that you've been through. So maybe it's a new job. Maybe it's you went traveling and now you've come back. Maybe you're in a new relationship. You've just gotten out of a new relationship. Maybe you're a new mother, a new father. Maybe you have just gone into retirement. And all of these transitions are things that are different than what we're used to. So here I am sitting here talking to you, and I'm doing something that's different than what I'm used to. And for some reason, when we think about a transition, we get this funny little expectation on ourselves that it's like, logically, we understand that it's a transition, and not logically, we beat ourselves up about the way that we handle the transition. So I'm going to put a little scenario together to help us all be on the same page. So our transition is you just got an amazing job, and now you are kind of flipped upside down with your normal routine. The routine that has fueled you, the routine that has stayed steady, the routine that helps you get everything done, the routine that nurtures you, the routine that you've grown to expect. And when the routine gets messed with, we also get messed with. However, one of the most important things that we can do is acknowledge that the routine is different. So step one, recognize there's a transition. Step two, recognize, okay, now my routine will be different. And logically, it makes sense. And emotionally, we hate it. And it's funny because we know how much routine helps us. And we create these routines and we create these systems so that we can fly through our day so everything can be smooth. And it's awesome. And then for whatever reason, with a transition, we think like, okay, I should be able to handle this. I should be able to still have my flow. I should be able to still do should. And what's funny is, wouldn't it sound different if we were like, oh, I'm transitioning through this new challenge and this new change. And now I recognize that my routine is different. And now I get to build a new routine around the transition that I just made. And what's funny also about this is we underestimate a lot of times how much that change is going to affect us. And I have this little like math equation about a transition, and it's kind of like a multiplication thing, but it's just to give yourself a little bit more perspective when you're going through a transition. So the first thing is to recognize that, okay, the date is coming where I'm going to have this big transition. So that's going to give you about 3 weeks to a month before the big date. So you're already in transition mode. If you're moving, you're packing. If you're getting ready for a new job, you're saying your goodbyes, you're closing out your projects. If you're breaking up with someone, you're mentally preparing for the conversation. You're getting maybe your house situation where you're going to live when you go to do that thing. And if you're getting ready for motherhood, you are getting your house ready and you're making sure you have everything that you need. And there's a big process. Actually, for that, there's probably a way longer process for that. And then the transition happens and there we are. And that's like really where we feel like, okay, things are different. And you get to watch yourself acknowledge that, okay, my day is different. It's starting later or starting earlier. Okay, this is going to be involved in my day and I didn't realize that. Okay, this is going to be something that I get to manage on a daily basis. Didn't know that was going to happen. And that's kind of like where we're face to face and confronting the transition that we just made. Like, wow, it's real. It's really happening. And it kind of shocks us in a way because our body actually goes into a shock, not like a shock like, you just had a car accident shock, but a shock that's like, we're shocking the system. Things are different. And our body is recognizing it. And it's understanding like, wow, everything I once knew is completely and entirely not what I know right now. And that's a scary feeling. And it's also an exciting feeling. And so with those two emotions tied so closely to each other, we're kind of even more anxious and more in our feelings. So then after that, your confrontation of the transition, you get the adjustment period. And the adjustment period is probably about 3 to 4 months. And it's literally you adjusting to that new change and understanding like this is your new reality and this is the new experience that you're going to experience on a daily basis. After that, it's the weaning back into old routines and figuring out how you can mix your before world and your now world together. And what is so exciting about that stage, it's where you get to be yourself in this new transition and be what you always knew you were in the past. So part of your identity might feel like it's shifted when you're in the midst of a transition. And when you get through that adjustment period and you're bringing back parts of yourself from before the transition, you're able to connect more with your identity and things that you once did. So, for example, I hear this all the time at the studio. So one of my students will have a child and then they'll come back and they'll be like, it feels so good to be back. I feel like I haven't made time for myself. And it's exciting for them because they're like, yay, I get to do things that I used to do. Yay, I get to do the things that made me happy before XYZ happened. And it's not to say that they aren't happy in their transition. It's just that things are different. Things need adjustment. I also had students that have transitioned into new jobs. And when they do that, it's the same exact thing. It's like, okay, they prep for their new job. They go into their new job. They're faced with the confrontation of, wow, this is different. Then they get their adjustment period and they get used to it. Then after that, they bring themselves back into what was the old them, which is now with the new them, which is now just them. So what is so exciting about this and what I'm going to tell you is that we get to be a little bit nicer to ourselves when we do have a transition coming up. So I think sometimes the expectation is a transition is what the transition is. So if you're moving and you know you're moving on July 1st, you're like, I'm moving on July 1st. That's the transition. But wait a minute. Are you factoring in all of the time that it takes? So are you factoring that actually your transition is probably starting on June 1st? And are you factoring in that once you move, you're going to need about 3 to 4 months of just getting used to your new space? And then are you factoring in like, all the stuff that you loved about where you were and bringing that into your new home? Then are you factoring in all the time it's going to take to understand all the things and activities you used to do and love, and understand, okay, now it takes me about 5 minutes extra to go from here to there. Okay, now I realize I need to come home first, pack a bag, and then do that errand that I used to do on Tuesdays, and I'm going to do that on Wednesdays now. All of that stuff takes time. So if we get an opportunity for our next transition, or maybe you're in a transition right now, you can say, oh yeah, this is going to take more time. And logically, giving yourself permission for it to take longer than expected, it's going to be a little bit more easy on you to understand. So our body is going through the experience and it knows like, okay, no, I need a nap today, or I'm tired and I need to not do that thing today, or oh, that thing we were supposed to do this weekend. Like, no, I just need to rest, because it's going in an overload. Mentally, we're catching up to the physicality, and mentally we haven't caught up to, whoa, that was a lot of stuff. Why, you wonder? It's because of our adrenaline. So when we're in a situation where things are shifting or things have shifted, our adrenaline kicks in and we move forward and through, because that's what we get to do. And our adrenaline takes over and it allows us to do it in the moment without all the thinking that we think. So for an example, so Josh and I had a crazy, crazy move, actually 2 moves in the year of 2020. So we moved my apartment and we moved the studio, and it was back-to-back moves, and they were so unexpected. And there was so much transitioning that happened. And we didn't quite get the before part because it kind of sprung up on us like, you got to move. And we were like, okay. So right then and there, our adrenaline, both of us, it kicked in for us. And it was like, you got to move, bitch. Like, you got to go. Like, you got to figure this out. And we were like, we kind of like, the rest of our body like went into autopilot, and we were like, okay, like, let's go. Let's do it. And that means that we had less thinking about it. Have you ever done that before, where you're just like, I don't have time to think. I only have time to do, and it's got to be done right now. It's kind of weird when that happens, right? Because the reflection process afterwards is intense, because it's usually sounding like this. Did that really happen? I remember looking at Josh like sometimes and being like, did that happen? And he's like, yeah, that happened. And, granted, we both process those things like individually, because just to give you some perspective, the studio that I am in right now, we had less than 20 days to get it where it was at right now. And if you want to have some fun, go on my Instagram and look at the second pinned post, and you can see what this place looked like before. And it was absolutely crazy. So it was like at my old studio, we got notification that someone had bought the building and they wanted us out. And then from there, we understood that we get to find a place now. And we found the place, and you're looking at a bunch of different places, and that takes days. And then agreeing on the place and agreeing on the lease and all of that takes time. And then making this a whole construction project in the midst of COVID, and then understanding supplies and things that we needed, and knowing that things were on back order. And like, literally, we were just like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to do it. Just going to go forward. Just going to make the most out of each day, doing something towards that transition. And it wasn't easy. And it is very special that we both get to look back on this experience and be like, it does feel kind of like, wow, we did that. Like, I can't believe that happened. And it wasn't that easy, because also this big transition had a big effect on our relationship, because we weren't getting our special time together as a couple. We weren't able to just bond and talk about our days. We were both like, okay, we're going to do the floor. Okay, then the walls, and okay, like all this stuff needs to be. So everything that we talked about was about the transition that we were having. So it took us that 3-4 months to get back to our groove of what we once were. Maybe multiply that by 2, because we had 2 big transitions back to back. And the first transition was even more intense. Story for another day. And it was like actually crazy. So that was like compounding interest, except instead of interest, it was compounding pain. It was like, oh no. And we got through it, and here we are today. And that was in 2020, and it's now 2025, exactly 5 years ago. And this was the month that it was happening. So you get that perspective of looking back and being really proud of how you handled your transition. And is there anything that I would have changed? Probably not. Like, I think it went really well. I'm really proud of it. And if I had to choose something that I wished were different, it would probably be just my mindset and Josh's mindset around how much time it would take to get back to what we felt was a normal. And that's why I'm here talking to you, because I want you to have this piece of advice or this piece of perspective for when you're going through your transition, to understand really, like, I know you probably are told this all the time. Like, if you're going through a transition, oh, it takes time, it da da da. And like, yeah, okay, your logic brain kicks in and it's like, yeah, I know. And I'm here to be like, do you really know? And to give you some support for what you can do. So here is step number one. When you're thinking about a transition, think about the transitions that dancers do. So from one move to the next move, we are transitioning. So when you see a dancer that's so fluid and so flowy, it's because they have a move, another move, and the transitional move. So it's 3 moves. What we think it is 2. And especially when my students are learning, they're like, okay, this was 2 moves. And I'm like, but it's actually 3, because it's your first move and your second move. And it's that other move that's right in the middle. And that move is kind of like you're not really in the first move or the second move. You're in your own experience, and yet you're still moving forward. So if this is hard to think about when you're changing lanes in a highway. So you're switching lanes, and also you're still moving forward. You don't move backwards. You know this. I don't know how that would even work. We don't pause in the middle. What we do is we go forward and we switch and we keep going forward. So the transitional move is looking behind us, right? Making sure there's no cars in sight, getting our directional on, looking behind us probably again, and then double checking it probably again, and maybe like another time after that, and then moving through into the other lane. In dance, if I was going from standing to the floor, I'm going to get my leg ready that I'm going to go down on. I'm going to get my energy ready to shift into that foot. I'm going to lower down gracefully. So my muscles are going to be shifting from maybe supporting me and balancing me to getting ready to hold on weight because I'm descending. And then my hand is going to get ready to be placed because I'm probably going to be using that to balance myself down or ease myself down. And then my head is going to transition because it's probably going to resist the urge to go down. And I'm going to extend that motion so that it looks like I'm still very much where I just was. And then we get down into our transition, and then we move beautifully to the next move. Transitions are actually so beautiful in dance. I love watching them. And when they're fluid, they're even better. And sometimes we do pause in a transition, and that also is okay. And it's funny because, transitions, me being a DJ, this is actually another really cool analogy is when we're switching into songs, because there's one song and then the next song you're going into, and there's so many different ways to transition music. And one way you can do it is you can just drop that music right in and be like, yo, here's another song. Another way you can do it is you can blend the songs together. So you're hearing parts of one and parts of the other. And sometimes you can loop out the song that's going out and loop in the song that's going in. And you can have this really unique transition. And that's a great word for transitions, is it's unique. Like every transition is beautiful in its own way in your life. And as dancers, we are really good at transitioning because we're doing it all the time. I mean, you can even think about backstage when we're transitioning from one costume to the other, and we have like -5 seconds to get our tights changed, our hair changed, maybe our lipstick changes, and we get into our costume. And it's definitely not comfortable at all. And yet it's still exhilarating, and we know we need to do it. We know we get to do it. And we know that the reward on the other side is getting to perform that routine that we worked on. That's the other costume. The other side is being able to showcase all the other skills in that other routine. The reward on the other side is also being like, yo, you did that. And how cool is that? In the moment that we're dancing and we're backstage and we're switching costumes fast, once we're in the other costume and we're backstage, we're not thinking about what we just did. We're thinking about the dance that we're about to do. So when you're transitioning into something big, you're not thinking about, oh, wow, that was crazy that we just did that. That comes after. You're thinking, okay, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to go on stage. I got to perform this dance. Yay. You're not thinking, wow, like the way I held my tights there was really cool. And I was able to get the right leg in like faster than the last time. No, you're not even thinking about that. Maybe you never think about that. But what you are left with is afterwards knowing that something that was uncomfortable. Yeah, it's not comfortable getting naked backstage. Raise your hand if you've been naked backstage. A lot of us have, because that's sometimes the only way to do a quick transition. Also, raise your hand if you had 3 people helping you change at one time. Like, right? Those days are the best though, right? Like, no, it's not comfortable at all. Like, and it's stressful and it feels uncomfortable. And yet we do it and we know why we do it. So these transitions you're doing right now, yeah, they're uncomfortable. They're not going to feel amazing. And even after, it might not feel amazing. I mean, there's some times when we've gone on stage and like you can feel that your tights are just wrong. And if only you had another couple minutes to like do it the way you would normally do it, if you had more time, you wouldn't be feeling like the twist, like that's going into like the vajayjay. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I want you to recognize your stamina gap. And the stamina gap is something that I refer to as the gap in between what was once what you were doing and is what you're doing now. We sometimes underestimate the mental stamina that it takes to transition from one thing to the next. You want to perform at your best, and you know that it's really hard, and you're trying to keep up. Sometimes you think you should be adjusted already because it's been that long. And then, of course, we wouldn't be humans if comparison didn't creep in, because comparison's going to come in now and it's going to say, you're not your old self. What's going on? And you're going to be like, I know, right? Instead of, well, I'm still in that transition period. I'm in this gap period. I'm feeling like I was just uprooted. So here are some things that I'm going to give you to think about the next time you're in this situation. So the first is naming it. So, hey, I'm in a transition period. This is my season. Remember we talked about seasons before in the middle of our burnout podcast? Well, you get to say it out loud. Hey, I'm transitioning things right now. I'm in a season of doing things a little bit differently right now. Saying it out loud like that creates awareness. And we know that awareness is one of the best things that you can do. Step 2, adjust the pressure. So, yes, you're amazing. Yes, you are doing things so great. And lower the expectations for yourself. You can perform at a B+. You don't have to perform at an A+ right now. Lower the pressure, lower the tempo. You can actually show up at 60% and you're still moving forward. How cool is that? 3, honor the lag time. Understand you're not lazy. If you're tired, you're tired. Accept it. Embrace it. Find and adjust routines. It could be possible that your routines are going to change daily or weekly when you're in this adjustment period, that 3 to 4 month period. Set smaller goals and set a goal to show up imperfectly. And lastly, be nice to yourself. You're going through something crazy right now. Your internal voice can be your greatest motivator. And if you're nice to yourself, you're going to believe that you deserve patience and time to adjust. If you're mean to yourself, you're not going to think you're worthy of it. You're going to make matters worse. So remember that when you're in transition, you're in motion. Things are moving, things are adjusting. It's like going back to that car idea. You're driving on the road. Your transition doesn't stop. Like you don't get a picture of your transition. And it's like, that's where the tree was and that's where that silver car was. It's like, it's blurry because it's in motion and it feels blurry. And that's okay. And you're not falling behind. You're just adjusting to a new tempo, to a new rhythm. So the next time you experience a transition and you think it's going to be, oh yeah, it's just 1 week, go ahead and multiply that by 9. It's not an exact multiplication, but it will help you gain perspective on exactly how long the transition really is going to take you to feel like you've really mastered something. And if you're saying like, wow, that's going to take me 8 months, that might be more accurate than 4 weeks. And that can be an unfortunate truth. And we get the power to shift that and understand why it's not so bad. And because we have that preparedness, now we know that our expectations are adjusted. And we don't have to be mean to ourselves when it's taking 8 months to feel like we're back to ourselves. We're like, oh, yeah, that's what I predicted. So good luck to you with your next transition or the current transition that you are in. And know that you have it. You got it. You have it within you. And you get to just be nice to yourself. You get to transition smoothly and slowly. You get to pause. You get to be imperfect. And your tights might be twisted. Your costume might be not clasped correctly. And you're still going to get on stage. And you're still going to perform. And you're still going to kill it. I'll see you for part 2. See you on the dance floor.